For the best talk in town, it's the Jane Norris Show.
Good morning, I'm Dawne Gee, sitting in for Jane Norris, who will return tomorrow. It's a pleasure to join you this morning. We want you to give us a call at 571-JANE or 1-888-800-9283. I don't get a chance to sit in for Jane an awful lot, but unfortunately a few times when I've had to sit in or when I've had the chance to sit in, we've talked about gang violence. It's ridiculous. Again, this weekend we're faced with the same situation. One man was murdered, they say, because of gang colors and gang violence. And one man, again, was shot on a street corner. A drive-by shooting in Louisville, Kentucky. What are we doing with our gangs? We've talked about this before. Why is it here? Hasn't always been here. Wasn't here when I was a little girl. And as a mother, I have got to say that I have shed a few tears over this, and I'm really pretty tired of it and don't know what to do myself. Tammy McNeil, our producer, I would guess, you know, you with a baby girl who will grow up one day and have to face making choices on her own. What do you think about all this?
I don't know. I hope I'm a good enough parent to steer her in the right direction, but you're right, it's scary.
So I don't know, and I'm not going to say who's, you know, what's happening here, but do you even think maybe even with some good parents, the kids sometimes just make mistakes and get hooked up in things they don't need to be hooked up in?
Sometimes I think friends and peers are stronger than parents. And I only wonder, I was talking to you about this earlier, I hope it's not a copycat type of situation or a retaliation type, like I'm going to get you back now. I hope it stops.
Right. Well, that's something to think about. I mean, as I mentioned, one man was killed, and the following day they're saying that it was just revenge. That's all. Which means, is there another revenge incident coming? Give us a call, please. The Jane Norris Show. It's your turn, your time to talk back right now at 571-JANE, 1-888-800-9283. We'll be back to take your calls in just a minute. I'm Dawne Gee, sitting in for Jane Norris. She will return tomorrow. We are speaking once again of gangs. Why? Because once again they have taken to the streets and caused murder and some destruction. It's in the newspaper. The Courier-Journal, distant gunfire punctuates call to fight violence because there is a tent revival saying no more gangs, but is it doing any good? And also a drive-by shooting of a teen that may be tied to a gang slaying. All this again in the Courier-Journal. We are also joined by a good friend of mine and a gentleman who's always on the street trying to make sure that kids are doing what they should do. George Addison, hi, how are you this morning?
Thanks for having me.
Now, you're also not only somebody, I guess, that's always on the street making sure that kids stay straight. You started an organization, I know it by its, I guess, nickname of PATIS, and it stands for?
Positive Images That Invoke Self-Esteem.
And George, we talked, and Tammy talked to you this morning. We got you here rather quickly after hearing the news of this weekend, and you are not your kind of upbeat, crazy self today because you're a little distraught over all this.
Well, it's frustrating. I had taken an individual today who had associated with gang members, and for the first time got that person employed. They now have a job, and it was just good to feel that, you know, that energy and that excitement that they had, but it was tapered somewhat because of all the violence we had yesterday. You know, you save one, and then you know, 2 or 3 more go by the wayside, and it's just kind of hard sometimes to keep reaching out there grabbing kids because it's really a hit and miss type deal.
Now, does our city have its eyes shut, as I did at one time? I was guilty of this. I swore there were no gangs in Louisville, and now my heart races every night because I've got 3 kids, but one's too little, and I'm so fearful.
Well, I'm not sure that the city may necessarily have its eyes shut, but you have to ask yourself about some of the decisions that have been made relative to funding to organizations that are supposed to be dealing with this problem and this issue. And, you know, for the kind of financial resources given to those organizations who have been out here for some time, when do you see that kick in? Particularly when you know that there are other organizations and individuals out there who never receive any funding, who've been really struggling with this issue far too long by themselves without the support.